Hi everyone, this is Alison Crim from Husky Homes. Today I'm going to be talking about building long-term generational wealth, and I'll be sharing my own story of buying and selling various properties over the past 10 years and how I've been able to build generational wealth for myself and my family. So historically speaking, the Madison area continues to be an amazing place to build generational wealth. Long-term properties are appreciating. More people are coming into Dane County than are leaving. It's an area of high growth and high demand. That's why we've chosen to practice real estate in Dane County and why myself and my husband have continued to invest in real estate in Dane County over the past 10 years. Building long-term generational wealth is all about providing security for yourself and for your family for years to come by enabling you to have the lifestyle that you want and also having some savings and security for you in the future in the event of unforeseen things that are happening. So today, again, I'm excited to share with you about my story over the past 10 years of buying and selling and some quick tips for you along the way about how you can build generational wealth for yourself. So let's talk about the specifics of how this is done. For me and my family, this might look a little bit different than what it'll look like for you or what I might recommend for you. But I'm going to give you some stories about ultimately how we bought and sold 3 different properties over the past 10 years, which allowed us to fund a generational lifestyle for our growing family. For us, it looked a lot about settling. Really, we ended up buying a lot of homes that we knew were never going to be our forever home. We knew we wanted a home that was a little bit bigger or that would be maybe in a different location, but we settled. We settled 3 times in a row over the past 10 years because it was a home that was about the location and the ability for it to appreciate for the short period of time that we were going to live there. There's a lot of people that we work with on a day-to-day basis, especially first-time home buyers who really want to make sure they're getting their dream home right away for their first home. And the biggest piece of advice I can give if your quest is to build long-term wealth is that don't look for your dream home first. Look for the piece of property that's the ugliest in the best neighborhood or has the most potential or has the ability to work for your needs for the next short-term period of time, maybe 2 to 5 years, make some updates, and then move on and continue to compound that investment and that interest over time. That's what worked really well for our family. It involved a lot of late nights working and hard conversations and longer drives perhaps than we were used to, but ultimately it led us down the path that we are on today. This all started for me in March of 2013. I had just started a new job after graduating from college the prior year, and I had been in this job for about 9 months. I was making a steady income. I had a salaried position, and I felt comfortable with what I was making in that I wanted to invest in a home. Now, even though I had a salary, I wasn't making a ton of money. I could afford a very low price point, and at the time, my price point was up to $150,000. And this was in 2013, where there was more inventory at that price point than there is today, but my options still weren't great. So I ended up looking all around the Dane County area. I was working in Verona and I was looking at single family homes. I was looking at condos, and my search started out by looking at what everyone else was looking at. I was drawn to the really cute houses and the cute condos that were updated and painted and meticulously well kept because, of course, those were cute and I could move right in and enjoy my lifestyle and have the life that I wanted to live right away. Well, what ended up happening is I ended up buying the ugliest condo that I found. There was a condo that had an amazing location, actually, 5 minutes away from work. It backed up right to the bike trail so I could walk my dog on the bike trail or take even my bike to work if I wanted to. And it was located 1 block off of Main Street where there were coffee shops, grocery stores, bars, restaurants, and it was a growing city with a lot of demand. The condo itself left a lot more to be desired. Yes, it did have a 2-car garage, which was important to me, and that was nice. And it had a private entrance, which made it feel less like a condo and more like a home, and definitely like a step up from my apartment. But it was hideous. It had these orange countertops that were original, about 20 years old, laminate. It had linoleum flooring, dirty carpeting. All of the walls needed to be painted, original light fixtures. It was just not what you'd look at and say, I'm excited to buy this place. But it had been on the market for a few weeks. It was cheap. It was $125,000. I ended up getting it for $124,000. And I thought, this is a great location. I'd gotten some really great advice from my realtor at the time because I wasn't licensed, who said, These are the things you want to look for. You want to look for a place that you can update over time, that's in a location that's growing, that can provide you a place to live and security for the next couple of years, and then get what you want in a couple of years once you've made some money on this place and have more of a down payment to play with. Since I was a first-time home buyer, I only had 3% down. So for a $125,000 condo, that meant spending about $7,500-ish on my first purchase, which is, in the long-term scheme of things, not a huge chunk of change. I had to save for that over the course of 9 months at my first job, which was hard for me as a newly graduated college student who wasn't super familiar with budgeting. But I was bought into the idea of home ownership. I thought, I can save $7,500 to get my first place. I bought it, and then that's really where the whole story starts. When I first bought this condo, I figured, how hard can renovations be? I watched a lot of HGTV back then, and I thought, these people are flipping houses and they're painting and redoing flooring, and it doesn't look so bad. If they can do it, I can do it. So the process started out with me and my boyfriend at the time watching a lot of YouTube videos. I had no skills at the time about even how to paint because my dad didn't trust me to paint my own bedroom growing up, and neither did my boyfriend at the time. So truly our evenings and weekends were spent, hey, we're going to work on this project, whether it's backsplash or ripping out flooring or putting in tile into a shower. And we learned how to do it on YouTube, and it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of tough conversations. It was a lot of learning that I'm really not handy at all, and he's a lot handier than I am. But thankfully, I was good at budgeting and project management. He was good at being handy, and we ultimately learned that we made a really great pair for doing some of these updates. While we were living there too, I ended up, because he wasn't living with me full time, I ended up having a roommate. This was not ideal. I wanted to be a homeowner and live on my own and be this adult, but I also needed to fund these renovations for my long-term goals. So there was another person that I worked with who was looking for a place to live. We signed her up on a 1-year lease, and she took over the second bedroom and bathroom. And those are actually the rooms that we remodeled last after she moved out. So she was willing to live throughout the renovations as well because she really liked the location. And she paid me a monthly payment for a lease that I put 100% of that money towards the renovations every month, which ultimately funded the updates that needed to be done to build appreciation and equity in this particular condo. So at the time, I had a stressful job. I was traveling every single week. My significant other didn't live with me full time, and I had active projects going on constantly. I'd oftentimes get home late from traveling to a cold condo that was completely torn apart because we had no flooring. We were halfway through painting, whatever. It was not ideal, but I always kept the long-term goal in mind. I'm going to stay here for a couple of years, use the down payment, use the equity that I got in this to fund my next down payment. So it was all temporary, even though it was difficult. And ultimately, after about 3 years, the projects were done. Those projects entailed new flooring everywhere. So installing new hardwood flooring in about 1,600 square feet, which was the size of the whole condo, renovating both bathrooms, upgrading light fixtures and plumbing fixtures, and really any fixture throughout the entire place. We painted the entire place, and thankfully we didn't have to worry about any exterior stuff since it was a condo and it was our first project. So we also had to furnish it. I was, again, coming from a college lifestyle where I had no furniture. So even looking back on the sale of this condo, it was some furniture, but it was certainly left a lot to be desired. But we furnished the rooms to make it look ready to be sold and had it staged nicely, which we also figured out how to do on our own to make it show ready, and we sold it for a great profit. So how those numbers ended up shaking out is that I bought this in 2013 for $124,000. We put in total about $20,000 worth of updates, and then sold it in 2016 for $183,000. So we were able to take that first net sum of money that we were able to generate from this income sale, about $45,000 plus or minus, and then we plan to use that for our next big project with the goal of then taking those $45,000 and doubling it to be able to continue to build wealth and compound that over time with each new project that we took. Immediately after the condo sold, my partner and I took the equity from the first condo and used it as a down payment on our next home. We had some money left over from the down payment, which we ended up being able to do 10% down on our next place, which ended up being about $27,000. And then we had some money left over to fund the first batch of renovations. This was an entirely different place for a lot of reasons. It was a single family home instead of a condo. It had a big yard. It had a 3-car garage, but it was ugly. Again, it was completely dated. There had been no work done to it, and it was located on a beautiful street that was just a few blocks away from a lot of new construction. So I thought, these new construction homes are going to continue to push up prices in this neighborhood. So I knew that if we did a full high quality remodel, we'd be able to compare this home and its updates to the new construction offerings just a few blocks away. And that's exactly what we did and how we focused our renovation projects. This project took another 3 years for us. Again, we had full-time jobs. We were doing this on evenings and weekends, and this was a much bigger scope than the first project. We had about double the square footage. We had a yard. We had a full basement to finish on this one. So it tended to take a lot more time and about double the budget, actually a little bit more. This time it was a bigger scope. We fully remodeled the kitchen. We painted all the cabinets, added a custom countertop, put in a farmhouse sink, rearranged a lot of the layout in the kitchen to make it more open, rebuilt the screen porch, remodeled 2 bathrooms, put in all new flooring, light fixtures, plumbing. And then on top of that, we put in a 6-foot tall cedar privacy fence in the yard for our dogs. And then we added about 1,200 square feet of finished space in the basement, also adding an additional bedroom and bathroom, because the comparable sales said that instead of this being a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, if it were a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, we could sell it for a lot more. And it just made sense to be able to finish it off and add those into the basement. The last thing we did is we also put on a new roof. This actually happened during the under contract period, which I don't recommend. We thought the roof was fine. It came up during an inspection. The inspector and many roofing specialists that we had come out said, nope, unfortunately, the roof is at the end of its useful life. So that increased our renovation budget by $10K right at the 11th hour. But it is what it is. Ultimately, we purchased this home for about $254,000, and we put in about $60,000 worth of updates. In the end, 3 years later, we sold this for $390,000. So we were able to have a bigger net than our first project, and we were able to take these net proceeds and then again apply those to our third project in 6 years, which then led us into our longer home that we stayed in for another chunk of time. So in 6 years, we were able to take our initial $7,500 investment that we made in the first ugly condo, and we turned that into $75,000, which was our net proceeds from this second project. The last house that we bought was an even nicer home. It was newer, it was located in a better location, a better school district, and we thought if we have to stay here for 5 or even 10 years, that's okay because we really like this location and it's a beautiful house. But we also knew that this location demanded luxury. It was a beautiful house, but it wasn't really upgraded. It could use a lot of thoughtful updates with lighting and designer choices and upgrades to the bathrooms and the kitchen and the basement and the yard. And we thought this location is appreciating on its own so nicely. If we just do the cosmetic updates and just make it really feel luxurious with the finishings that we select, then the market's going to continue to push this up with minimal updates that we need to do over the next 3 years. And that was exactly our plan. Buyers were willing to pay premiums to get into the neighborhood. So what we had to do to this house was the common things that we always did, which was paint, light fixtures, upgrading bathrooms, and adding some additional finished square footage to the basement. But then we also spent a lot of time, effort, and energy on upgrading the yard. We added another fence. We did some custom landscaping, edging, did a lot of planting. We made the home look as beautiful from the outside as we did from the inside. And again, this home was only about 5 years old. So this time, thankfully, we didn't have to worry about any big ticket items like a new roof, a new furnace, or anything that would be due to the age of the home needing to be replaced. So ultimately, we just rode the market for the 3 years that we owned this house from 2016 to 2019. We were very fortunate that this location continued to appreciate as we expected it to. We bought this home for $445,000, put in about $45,000 worth of updates to this home over about 3 years. Again, smaller projects, but more expensive projects that showed off the luxury finishes. And we ended up selling this home 3 years later for $650,000. This was our biggest amount of proceeds yet. It was a phenomenal location and the timing of the market was perfect. And then we were able to take our net proceeds, which were about $200,000, and really apply those towards our generational wealth plan that we had been slowly building over the past 9 years at this point. So with each cumulative project that my husband and I were working on, we had a goal in mind of think long term, think towards the future, and don't worry about what's going on now, because we're building the lifestyle that we want to live and we want to have when we have children and we want to be growing our family. And so after this last project, when we had our sale, we were able to fund our savings accounts, retirement plans, college plans, put a down payment on our next house, our next project that we'll probably stay in for another 3 to 5 years again. And ultimately, it's about providing security for us and our family for today, for 5 years, for 10 years down the line. The biggest tip that I can give anybody who is thinking long-term about building their generational wealth for themselves and their family is to think long-term. It's to not focus on what is going to be the perfect house for me today and thinking short-term and getting that forever home that you've always dreamed of. It's actually about settling. It's about finding the home in a great location that has the ability to appreciate, that you can maybe put some sweat equity and some time into to improve and build that appreciation over time by working a little bit harder than everybody else. It's about finding a home in maybe a less than ideal location for you in a growing town that has a lot of potential. And when you do this, and when you think about strategic decisions for your investments and compounding on those decisions over the upcoming years, it's amazing what an initial $7,500 investment can turn into after 10 years. If you want to get in touch and talk further about these details and any pros and cons about the process, or what your specific path to building long-term generational wealth is, check out the website huskyhomeswi.com and get in touch.